This video is walking you guys through your second essay assignment, which is a comparative essay looking at two different poems that you read in this unit. So there are a lot of different poems that you guys read, looking at things like structure, voice, figures of speech, etc. So your prompt is pretty simple. You're going to choose two poems that you read from this unit from two different authors. Compare and contrast those works in terms of literary analysis. Use the materials, obviously, to guide your analysis. So you guys can choose poems that seem to naturally fit together, or you can compare maybe poems that maybe don't seem to naturally go together. The choice is up to you. And you're going to have to show how they're similar and different in terms of these different literary elements. So think about things like theme, imagery, figures of speech, voice, and use the graphic organizer to help you kind of organize your thoughts. So you do need to have at least two sources to support your claims. And then your essay has to be 3 to 4 pages in length and is due by Sunday, July 17th at 11:59 p.m. So everything's going to be checked for plagiarism, everything needs MLA, everything has to be the minimum page length, of course, proper citations in text and on a bibliography. So your bib should have at least 4 entries on it. It should have your 2 sources and your 2 poems. There are a lot of poems that you guys read, so like I said, you could choose ones that seem to kind of go together naturally, or ones that maybe are unexpected pairings. Whatever you choose, make sure you choose carefully, make sure you have enough to say about those 2 poems, and use your knowledge of how to analyze and break down poetry to kind of bring this argument to life. So just as you did in your first essay, you need to have solid evidence to support your claim. So that means you need to pull in direct quotes from poems to show your audience what you're talking about. And then the same thing, you need to have direct quotes from your source materials to help support or flesh out your analysis. And I might suggest starting with the source material in this case, because sometimes that's a good way to kind of help focus your analysis, because there is so much that you could say about all of these poems. It might be kind of hard to choose a more narrow focus. So for example, one thing I want to make sure that you guys do is that you compare the poems across concepts. So what I don't want you to do is have one paragraph for The Road Not Taken and one paragraph for Because I Could Not Stop for Death, and then one back for The Road Not Taken and then one more for Because I Could Not Stop for Death. That is a less complex form of analysis. What you should do is choose 3 main ideas to compare them across. So you could say, for example, both The Road Not Taken and Because I Could Not Stop for Death have symbolism of, I don't know, of travel or movement, right, through nature. And then you would show that by bringing in quotes from both texts and then analyzing it, comparing and contrasting the two. If you say we're going to do, I don't know, My Papa's Waltz and Theme for English B, you could say both poems touch on the theme of abuse, right? It could be in Theme for English B, however, the abuse is based on racial profiling, and in My Papa's Waltz, it's based on, domestic abuse. So these are just ways that you can compare and contrast across concepts. If you wanted to do, for example, say, Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night and To the Virgins, you could say that the theme of both poems is to fight against the concept of decay or death. In this case, it's To the Virgins, it's to seize the day, and to Do Not Go Gentle, it's to fight against the literal symbol of death. But that might give you some kind of examples as far as how you could compare these poems across concepts, rather than having one paragraph analysis for one and then one paragraph for another. Remember to look at things like the structure, the style, all of these different things that kind of play into our understanding of what these poems are trying to convey, why their author chooses to do or use certain elements. So all of that I just explained is right here for you guys. Some things you might think about. How do they connect in terms of themes or other literary elements? So where are they similar, where are they different? How are the structures similar or different? And how does that change or impact meaning? How do those similarities and differences between the authors themselves or the historical situation around those texts, how does that impact, the audience or the framework surrounding? So for example, these are written by very different authors. For example, The Flea was John Donne. That's an early modern text from, I think, late 1500s, versus something like Harlem, which is a very different text, a different generation, a different movement, different era. So how does that help kind of shape meaning differently or even similarly, interestingly? So make sure you have a fully developed argumentative thesis statement, good analysis of the works and their major concepts, ample evidence to support your claims from both the primary and the secondary, excuse me, secondary sources, proper page length MLA, and the number of sources and citations, a good essay structure, so that's introduction, main ideas, and conclusion with lots of good evidence to support and analysis, and then careful organization of these ideas across concepts rather than having one paragraph for each author. So choose the poems that are most interesting to you, choose the content or the topics or the literary elements that are most interesting to you, and let me know if you guys have any questions.